So prior to Laura Rubin's departure, I served in a watershed planner role, much as Dan Brown is doing now. My background is in watershed science and river ecology. So I'm excited to be part of this organization where the mission is river health and vibrant communities. So it's been quite a year, I would say, for a first year on the job, but lots of good things happening. And we just wanted, I know that we've been engaged with the city of Ypsilanti on this project for some time now, but I have been, I stayed up to date with it under Laura's leadership, and then quickly got up to speed in my early time in the position. We were on a bit of a pause while we waited for some funding to come in, but now we have some, so we wanted to make sure that we were presenting to City Council and giving you the most up-to-date information that we have. So that's what brings us here tonight. My inbox and my phone is open to all of you at any point to reach out on this project or really anything pertaining to the river and what's important to the Ypsilanti community.
Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. Appreciate that.
Great. So I'll go ahead and, it looks like the host has disabled screen sharing.
I'll make you a co-host and then you'll be able to share.
Okay, great. I do have to say it is great to see everybody again, even though we're all separated in our boxes, but hope everybody's staying healthy and safe and all that. So you should be seeing my slide deck here. So yeah, as Rebecca said, of course, we are always at your service. Feel free to reach out to Rebecca or I if you have any questions about anything that we're talking about today, or if anything else comes up that you think about later. We're always available, so please feel free to reach out. That's what we're there for. So this is just to provide a status update, and I'll just do a few minutes just doing a quick refresher about how we got here, sort of the information that we have on hand, and what the next steps are. So hopefully this will be relatively straightforward. First things, I just want to really hit the key updates specifically for Ypsi and Ypsi area residents about just where we are in the process. So we are in what we call the comprehensive removal design planning phase of the process. And in this phase, we hope that we'll answer questions that were raised by the previously completed feasibility study. And then the real meat and potatoes of this part of the project is planning the restoration of the impoundment, planning the actual design of the removal, identifying any additional issues that we might not have thought about previously. And then sort of the fun part and kind of the exciting part is incorporating Ypsi's vision for the park and the area that's connected to the dam. One thing we do want to say is that there won't be any deconstruction of the dam in this phase, and there won't be any significant changes to the landscape through this phase, which is expected to go through at least 2021 by the schedule as it is right now. So there'll be a lot of opportunities for residents to provide comments, suggestions, potentially some opportunities to volunteer or otherwise help with the planning before we see changes to the landscape. So we are still early in the process. And this is just a visual representation of sort of what the generic dam removal process looks like overall. So every dam removal is unique and different, but these are sort of the core elements that we work through. So if we're sort of starting at the top and working our way down through the progression of the project, these are the major elements that we'll go through. So we've gone through the feasibility study, and you can see I've marked that we are here beginning that comprehensive removal design planning phase. But you'll notice that a lot of these dimensions of the project overlap. and the entire process takes years. If we include especially the restoration, which goes on several years after the dam comes out. But you can see we'll work through the comprehensive removal design planning phase. There'll be a permitting process where we identify the permits that we need and then go through the typical permitting process with Eagle DNR and an HHS and potentially some transportation permits as well. Through all of that, the community engagement and visioning is happening. And then, right about the time that the deconstruction is wrapping up or about to move forward somewhere in there, that restoration process is going to start, where we really try to think about restoring the impoundment for ecological health and public health and safety and getting the most out of that restoration. So that's sort of what the whole picture looks like at this point, just very broadly. So where are we right now? So we just remind everybody, we completed the feasibility study September 2018. Ypsilanti decided to remove the dam early 2019. Pretty soon after that, HRWC and IPSI staff went after funding from Michigan Department of Natural Resources, and specifically their Fisheries Habitat Grant Program. This dam removal was one of their priorities in the state for ecological restoration. And for a bunch of technical reasons, it was a good first program for us to apply to. Through that process, we learned quite a bit, and state and federal experts provided a lot of helpful guidance to us, pointed us in some good directions, made some good contacts with us. We submitted the proposal, of course, then COVID-19 delayed the proposal review, and that was delayed for several months. And then just in September 2020, we were awarded $330,000 from that proposal. So it was good it came through, but it was delayed for quite some time. We just pulled together a request for proposals for the removal design and analysis. So this will be working with an engineering firm to do the removal design and additional analysis. That was posted early this month. It's due December 4th. And we hope to have a bid selected by January 2021. What's a little bit interesting about the FHGP grant cycle, which we're now operating under, it ends 2021. So it's a pretty short timeline compared to what they would normally say. For a whole bunch of reasons, DNR didn't want to extend the timeline for the grant cycle because it would screw up a whole bunch of things on their end. So they've made it clear to us that no cost extensions are likely as long as we're making progress and following the plan. But of course, for any number of reasons, they can't guarantee that. So we're operating at an expedited pace just to be safe. But we think we'll have sort of the full 18-month grant term to complete the project as planned. And just to refresh everybody, I know we all are familiar with this and love this area. But it's good to get a satellite view real quick. So the project area basically extends just from south of Superior Dam all the way to LaForge Road, potentially slightly beyond that for a couple project elements. But a couple of things that came up in the feasibility study were Superior Road and the railroad bridge were two spots that got a lot of attention. And of course, all of us are very interested in Penn Park, which could see about a 30% increase in size as the impoundment is dewatered. So there could be a lot of opportunities for the park. So that's just highlighting sort of the key things that we'll talk about. I'll just remind everybody the conclusions of the feasibility study. There were really three categories that they looked at and provided information for us to move forward on. The first was sediment quantity and quality. In both the cases of sediment amount and quality, the short version is that it was better than expected, but that doesn't mean that there's not going to be management or more analysis needed. So particularly for sediment quality, most of the samples were within human health and ecological criteria, but state officials and independent experts gave us a lot of helpful guidance on how to analyze the sediment specifically for the idea of how do you manage the sediment properly before and after removal. Infrastructure, we talked about those 2 bridges. Those are going to be, certainly a focus going forward, and will be a focus of the removal design and the hydraulic analysis. And then the third point gets well out of my realm of expertise, but it's the riverfront land ownership. We'll remember that, it's expected that no property owners will lose land area, but there were a lot of really specific issues to each property about how property lines would change if, property owners, didn't want to, see their property change in one way or another. And then there were some specific issues raised around, how properties were deeded in a few specific cases. So that's another dimension we'll have to work through. The anticipated landscape change, which came out of the feasibility study, and it also, we know, reflects pretty well what we know of the pre-development area before the dam was installed from old maps that we have found. We know that, following removal, the exposed land will revegetate pretty rapidly. Following other dam removals in Michigan across the country, it's really a season or 2 is all it takes, and after 3 years, it really looks like kind of a floodplain meadow in this case, where you have a lot of plants coming in. So the restoration plan tries to get ahead of invasive species coming in and tries to maximize the benefit of that restoration process. Over the scale of a lifetime, so you can see I've emphasized eventually here, but eventually the river could mature into a forested river corridor. And to get a sense of what that might be like, you just have to look downriver from the dam. So the picture in the upper right is looking downriver from LaForge Road. So, really pretty stretch of river. It's one of my favorite stretches of the river. And then we know from the feasibility study and from a couple other experts that looked at that sediment erosion following removal, after the restoration process goes forward, that should be pretty limited and manageable, similar to how it is, elsewhere along this stretch of river. And we do want to make sure that we absolutely, it came through loud and clear that many residents, want to preserve the powerhouse and the cool sign that's on top of the powerhouse and that structure. So we'll be, certainly communicating that to the engineering firm and keeping that in mind throughout the entire process. And, as we're working with Ypsilanti on what the vision of that park should be. And then this is just to show you what the river corridor, how that might change. So this was again from the feasibility study. So this is Penn Dam's lower right. This is before dam removal. And then that's after. So you can see the green is the restored area. The blue is the river or the river corridor as it's restored. So you can see how that changes. And then just looking upriver, so Superior Dam's now upper left, and the 2 bridges crossing the impoundment along the bottom there. And it's a similar story. So you can see sort of the expected path of the river following removal. So this will inform the, all the engineering studies and analysis going forward. What we've learned since the feasibility study, so there have been some really exciting things and interesting things that have come out as we were working through the proposal to the Fish Habitat Grant Program, and then in other communications with other experts. So federal and state officials and experts are really supportive of the project and have been doing a lot to guide us and help us, as I said earlier, particularly anybody involved with fisheries, because what has come through really loud and clear is that there are really significant benefits to fisheries through this stretch of river following removal, and especially in Ford Lake, which has a really unique walleye population, and this will give them more spawning habitat. So the benefits to fisheries, particularly on Ford Lake, could be substantial. What also came out is that we need more analysis of the sediment for planning of the management of that sediment. So we've incorporated that into the next steps. I'll talk about that in a second. And then we've learned that there are some sensitive mussel species that are going to require consideration. So that'll, of course, be covered in the restoration planning activities. And then one thing that we've just seen broadly amongst state and experts sort of everywhere is that there's more interest in dam removal following the Tittabawassee dam failures. Like I said, all dams are different, and what happened there is not necessarily indicative of what the risks are here. But we do know that the types of storms that broke the dams up on the Tittabawassee, those types of storms are more likely across the entire region. So there's inherently more risk due to climate change, just because we're all seeing those changes. So the goals for this phase are, and this is essentially what we put forward in the RFP, a summary of what we've put forward for the engineering firm to look at. So the removal design and analysis is going to focus on the sediment analysis, and that will include 11 transects with at least 3 samples each. So about 33 new samples throughout the entire impoundment, with the option for looking downstream if need be. And we included up to a mile downstream. Most likely it will only be down to LaForge Road. But a nice set of sediment samples that will give us a good analysis of what's in the impoundment. The measurement of the impoundment and likely river path, will have a more detailed analysis of that. So this is the bathymetry of the river. So we'll have a nice picture of what the river is expected to look like following removal, where it's going to flow. And then hydraulic analysis. So what are the risks to the bridges? What needs to be done with the bridges, or at least what are the next steps that need to be done to figure out how to protect those bridges, if anything. And pulling that all together with the funds available, we think we'll be able to get about 75% of the way through what we've called this comprehensive design phase. So we're in the RFP, we've put an expectation in there that we want an intermediate report at the end, which will just inform the next steps. So it'll inform things like a geotechnical analysis of the 2 bridges across the impoundment. The other two things really are in many ways operating in parallel to that removal design analysis. So it's the restoration plan we want to have ready and in place before the water level of the dam is lowered. I think we can all agree on that we want to be ready before the deconstruction happens, so we won't allow that to happen. And then we want a Pen Park vision complete that incorporates the restoration plan and works hand in hand with the restoration also before the dewatering of the impoundment. So we want to know what we want to do with the park so that we can restore that ecologically well, so that the city can get the most benefits that it can out of that new park area and so forth. So we want those parallel dimensions ready before we start deconstructing the dam. And we think, just ballparking it, I think, that will certainly go through 2021 and most likely it will go into 2022. And I just want to give everybody a picture of, sort of how the management structure, lines up. And where are the options for community engagement throughout this whole process. The names of these aren't terribly important, but we've just assigned these so that we can keep track of everything. So we have the core team, which is really City of Ypsilanti staff, a few council members that are really helping us out, HRWC staff, and then we got some support from the Washtenaw County Water Resources Commission, which is great. So that we're calling the core team, and that core team just handles sort of the administrative tasks of the grant, the logistics, setting up Zoom meetings and basically getting things up and rolling, applying for grants, that sort of thing. The steering committee includes the core team, but then also it'll include reps from Ypsi and Superior Township. The purpose of that is to really guide the overall project direction, make sure that it's broadly staying on track, that we're engaging outside experts and sort of integrating all the project components together. The fun happens in the restoration and community advisory subcommittees. So the restoration committee is the core team. It's going to be federal and state officials, subject matter experts on various dimensions of restoration. That'll also include waterfront owners and area residents. And as I said, the big goal there is to develop that plan for restoration revitalization of the impoundment, including what the city wants to do with the park. The community advisory subcommittee is the dimension of the project that Ypsilanti is leading, and HRWC is, purely there just to provide technical support, answer questions about the science, and help out where we can. But this is Ypsilanti's park, and Ypsilanti should decide what to do with it. So that effort, really the key goal there is to identify needs, concerns, what are the strengths of the park area, so that can inform what to do with that park area going forward. So in that community advisory subcommittee and the restoration subcommittee, there will be potential for area residents to get involved if they wish. And then this is just a visual representation of that last slide, just so you can sort of see how kind of everything fits together. So you've got, the various project teams and parts communicating with each other, and they're essentially all filtering up to that steering committee. And that gets us back to a point where we apply for the next round of grants and advance the project forward sort of at each major project milestone. And the core team is handling, sort of the day-to-day throughout all of that. So that's just sort of a visual representation of how everything fits together. So the next steps. So as I said, we're waiting to see what firms submit proposals for the RFP that we have out. Those are due December 4th. We think we'll get several competitive proposals, and hopefully we'll have a firm selected early 2021. And then really the end of this year and early next year, we'll really start ramping up those restoration and community advisory subcommittees. And that'll be, getting a bunch of experts in the room to talk over what needs to be done so that we start that planning process in each of those dimensions. So that's where we are now. I'm happy to answer any questions at this point. I'll stop sharing my screen here.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Appreciate that.
Oh, thank you, Mayor.
Are there any questions or comments from council? Jennifer, is your hand up?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Oh, I just really wanted to say thank you to Dan and Rebecca and all that you folks are doing. I think, we just really couldn't do all of this without you guys and your input and just your expertise. And I really, really deeply value, your contribution. So I just want to say a big thank you. And the presentation was great. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks. That's kind of you to say.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. Oh, I'm sorry, Steve. I moved away to check the next screen. Yes.
That's all right.
Councilmember Wilcoxon. Yes.
Always the confusion with the screens. Excuse me. No, I'd also like to extend thanks to Daniel and Rebecca for all the work they've done. There's been a number of weekly meetings and, getting the RFP out and working with Chris Jacobs on that meeting, on the pre-bid meeting. It's been great. I'd also like to thank Beth Gibbons for her input into a lot of this early on. And she's not here, but we'll put it out there to the cosmos. But thank you again for all the work that you put into this. I was hoping there'd be more questions from folks.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wilcoxon. Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you, Rebecca, and thank you, Daniel. And we look forward to hearing more as the project moves along. Appreciate the work that you have done and the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Mayor. And we are at your service, so don't hesitate to reach out if any of you have any
Yeah,
questions.
we look forward to working with you, and we will come back to council regularly to give you progress updates. But we also have good liaisons in Steve and Annie and others that are involved in the project. So we'll be in touch.
All right, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
Council, the next item on the agenda is the presentation of the KFOR Award, and Reagan Basavica will speak towards that, I imagine.
Thank you, Andrew. Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. So are we able to show that award, Andrew? Thank you. Yes, so we are again honored to receive this award from the Government Finance Officers Association for our comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2019. So this award is extra special for us in the finance department because this is our first time to receive this award in our current roles. So this is my first time to receive this award as the finance director and treasurer for the city. So I would just like to take this opportunity to thank the finance team for helping in the compilation of this report. And thank you to the different departments for their contribution. And also thank you to our city manager, Frances McMillan, for her support in obtaining this award. So for those who would like to look at this report or read this report, this is available in the city's website. And yeah, thank you. So that's it, Mayor.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much for all the work that you've done. And as Councilmember Somerville said, congratulations to you and to your staff. And that's a nice achievement. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor.
Congratulations, Reagan.
Thanks for all your hard
Council
work.
member.
Yeah, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Yes. Appreciate all the
Thank
work
you.
that you do and appreciate you stepping right into that role at a time when you were very much needed. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yes.
All right, Council, on to the next section of the agenda, the ordinances first reading. The first item is ordinance 1370, entitled Medical and Recreational Marijuana Facility Zoning Modification. Resolution number 2020-246, resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti, whereas the city has an interest in protecting the economic diversity and image of the community, and whereas the city has an interest in promoting and supporting local businesses and their growth, and whereas the Planning Commission has recommended the City Council adopt the proposed ordinance change, now therefore be it resolved that the Ypsilanti City Council adopt the ordinance titled Medical and Recreational Marijuana Facility Modifications.
So move.
Is there
Support.
support? Been moved and supported. Was that you, Councilmember Morgan?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a presentation on this from staff? Okay.
Yes.
I see Mr. Armand. Yes, go ahead.
Hello, Council. Good evening.
Hello. Good evening.
I will present my staff just comments regarding this. Generally, I'm going to summarize my staff report I read to Planning Commission, but I do want to just note that Planning Commission did approve this with a 5-1 vote, or recommend your adoption with a 5-1 vote at their October meeting. So generally, we're just kind of doing a bug fix where we're looking to just clean up some of the ordinance, make things more consistent, make things easier for staff as well as the public in understanding the ordinance, and administering it and implementing it. So one of the biggest applications is kind of synchronizing the use regulations across every facility type, cleaning up any kind of conflicts we have in terms of what we originally had in 2017 as medical marijuana facilities. Now just making sure that, you know, medical and recreational zoning wise are kind of work hand in hand. And for example, having retail marijuana retailers, which is the recreational version of a retail store, be classified zoning wise the same way we would a medical marijuana provisioning center. These will still be licensed and permitted through the clerk as, you know, as separate license types, but in terms of zoning and location and land use and things like that, we wish to just group some of these together where possible. Another big change was the buffer regulations. So the way the ordinance for recreational was originally passed, we had some inconsistent buffer regulations. From some facilities to others, it was 1,000 feet. From some facilities to others, it was 500 feet. From some facilities to others, it was 0 feet. We want to just clean this up, make things more consistent. What we're asking for is a revision to have a 500-foot buffer universal across the board from same types. So a retailer could be 0 feet from a different type, but we need to be 500 feet from another retailer. Our old ordinance had a weird example where essentially a marijuana retailer could locate next to an existing micro business, but if it was the other way around, if the micro business was established first, if the retailer was cited first, a micro business couldn't go in next to them. But if it was the other way around, a micro business first, a retailer could go next to them. That's a really weird situation. It could also create nonconformities, which would create a problem if the micro business was there first. And if it ceased to exist or burnt down or something like that, then it would actually be unable to be rebuilt. It'd be a nonconformity. So we want to avoid conflicts like that. So that's most of it for the buffer. In the staff report to Planning Commission, which I included in the packet, I created a chart. One chart was the existing buffer chart, which just kind of summarized these zones and buffer requirements. Below that was a proposed buffer chart, which clarified what we're looking to do with our proposal. Obviously, it's all written into the text that you received, but sometimes the chart just makes things a little easier to read. We also wanted to kind of reinforce the fact that for special land uses, which a lot of marijuana facilities are special land uses, with the exception of retailers in zones, every other facility is a special land use. We wanted to enforce that the facility can't be altered or the site can't be altered or expanded on without approval of the Planning Commission, just to make sure that changes to the site, changes to the land use is approved by Planning Commission. That was generally it. Obviously, we want to fix any typos and also renumber our provisions as well. So yeah, I'll open it up to any questions you might have.
Any questions from council?
Yeah, I have a question, Mayor.
Yes.
Well, more of an observation in the statement. In the ordinance, it reads, the city has an interest in protecting the economic diversity and the image of the community. And those words are interesting because I think that medical and the recreational have been what we would consider essential because they haven't shut down at any point during COVID. And when we're talking about economic diversity, I do support the businesses, but when it comes to the buffer zone, some of them are arbitrary. We've extended it to 1,000, and just because it's inconsistent, does that mean the buffer zone should decrease because it's inconsistent? Why not leave it at 1,000? Who would that benefit, and who would it hurt?
I think we just generally thought 500 kind of sits between 0 and 1,000. For consistency's sake, we could really choose any of those numbers. We really just, we see there's a little bit of a demand for some more possible applications, yet really not enough to open it up altogether. You know,
But the council extended
there.
Council extended that from 500 to 1,000 feet, correct?
Yes, if I could remember correctly.
Yeah, we did. And so it seemed like it's arbitrarily being reduced. I haven't heard a case for it just because it's typos. I haven't heard a case to give us that's valid enough just because it's inconsistent. I don't know what led that. And the last thing I would say, like when you talk about the synchronizing the use, it seems as if, like, I don't know where the social equity program fits into the medical or the recreational, but I need, who's benefiting from the economic diversity of this synchronization? The business or the citizens?
I see you, Councilmember Somerville. Go ahead.
I think generally, you know, I think those are good questions. I think generally, I think both there's potential to benefit from, you know, another facility here or there. Obviously, when it fits right with the community and at a planning commission level too. Planning commission still needs to approve all facilities unless you're in the center zone, which is a permitted use by right for retailers only.
Thank you.
Are you done, Councilmember Morgan?
I am at this juncture. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Somerville.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I think there's a public hearing for this. I just wanted to point that out. Sorry.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
Can I just add to address Councilmember Morgan's question? So the buffer for medical provisioning centers was at 1,000, but the buffer for recreational retail is actually 500. So this is just one of the many discrepancies that was within the ordinance.
Okay.
So you guys decided that, yeah, you decided that medical, that recreational could be 500, but medical had to be 1,000.
So what we did inadvertently, was reduce the amount for medical.
Well, no. So right now, medical still requires a 1,000-foot buffer, but recreational has a 500-foot buffer, and that just is one of the many inconsistencies with the ordinances having two different ordinances.
I understand. So if he said he make it consistent at 500, is that for recreation and medical marijuana?
Yes.
Yep.
That means we just reduced the 1,000-foot buffer to 500 for medical.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or right now?
If I could add one more thing for the retailers, it's also, they're capped at 7 and then 3 additional social equity. So this is, unless one of the currently operating facilities wishes to relinquish their permit, this isn't going to have effect on that business type.
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Wilcoxon.
I just want to comment on one of the statements that Councilmember Morgan made. He said that we inadvertently made this 500. And it's like, this was intentional. We all voted on this. This wasn't just happenstance that it happened to do that. We had a vote on this. So that's all.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? If not, we'll open up the public hearing.
Members of the audience, if you wish to make comments on this ordinance amendment, please raise your hand and then you'll have 3 minutes to make comment. Okay, there is one individual with their hand raised, Jeff Guyton, or Guyton rather, and I'll allow them to speak now.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm a Ward 1 resident. I've lived here for 47 years. Mr. Councilmember Morgan, I appreciate your question. I would say that I'm one of the people that benefit from the social equity provision. And I do appreciate the fact that Ypsilanti actually scores for social equity. So meaning that I actually do get points for, living in the city, being here for over 5 years plus, 40 some. This directly impacts me and my family, our ability to survive. And then also, I have a strong invested, I have a strong investment in the city. So this is something where this really helps us out. It reduces my costs. It allows me to get into a market that I probably wouldn't be able to get into without it. And it's really, really exciting for people like me. So I really do appreciate your.
I think we lost you.
All right, I put him back on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was talking to Councilmember Morgan. I appreciate that he's thinking about the community. I think that's a really important piece of the social equity component. Of being able to get into the adult use and medical marijuana industry. I do appreciate the way that Ypsilanti has structured this, as a scorecard, and being able to come in and being able to enhance your application or your permit status by being a resident or, being impacted by incarceration, which thankfully I haven't, but I know many people that have. So, I'd like to tip my hat to council and to whomever, came up with this metric for allowing people to get permits in the city. It is really important to me. I don't think I'd be able to do it without it. And we are looking at a couple of projects in the city that could be potentially really exciting. But without this program, we wouldn't be able to do it. So I'm truly grateful to the city. I do appreciate the perspective that you guys have brought to this and the thought that you brought to this. And I'm really excited, with your backing to change some of these the zoning provisions that we have, because they are some of them are redundant, some of them they aren't consistent, and they help us do some of the development that we would like to do in the city. And like I said, I've been here for an extremely long time. This is not something that I take lightly. I think that it's something that I'd really like to showcase for the city. I think it could be a lot of fun. And having the support of council and the planning commission and staff and residents is obviously very important to us and the partners that I'm involved with. So I guess I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guyton.
Right, council, no one else currently has their hand raised in the attendees list, but I'll wait a moment before moving. All right, and if council wishes, it can move for discussion.
Do we need the motion to close public hearing, please?
So
Move to
moved.
close. I support.
Or
Does that just take a voice vote?
Yeah, you could do a voice vote for that.
All right, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, hearing none, the public hearing is now closed. So is there any other further questions or discussion from council? Councilmember Wilcoxon.
I just want to clarify my comment before. So there was a buffer put in at 1,000 feet for the medical marijuana. When we chose to include recreational businesses, that was made 500 feet. And So to Mr. Morgan's point, we are now asking, this is now proposing that the buffer for the medical facilities goes to 500 as well. All of those facilities are becoming recreational as well. So it doesn't really change that. They're there. The 1,000-foot buffer from schools is still in place. So the idea here is that you've got a business owner that's got two different things that they have to pay attention to in terms of spacing from other businesses and things like that. So just it's pretty much record keeping. Those businesses are where they are, and that they put a lot of money into those facilities, and I doubt that they're gonna move substantially. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? I have a question. Why, and I think this is something that I kind of heard Councilmember Morgan getting at without stating it exactly as this, but why was it chosen to change the buffers to 500 rather than extend both of recreation up to 1,000, since the 1,000 was there and had been established for the longest time?
You know, I think that just if that was directed to me, Mayor, I'm sorry to cut anybody off. I believe the 100 was just for businesses. It was
going in and out, at least for me. I don't know if it's my. Okay.
I'll start over.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. I believe the 1,000 feet was just for medical marijuana provisioning centers and marijuana micro businesses. I believe everything else had 5-foot buffers, and we just have kind of come to the conclusion that it doesn't really make a lot of sense to buffer a micro business differently than some of these other facilities, as well as trying to make provisioning centers, which is the medical version of the retail store, and then marijuana retailers, which is the recreational version, all the same buffer of 500. The route we went at in terms of what we recommended.
Okay, I don't know that my question is, why did you choose, why was the 500 feet buffer chosen rather than the 1,000 foot? If you've got the two and you want to make them the same, why was the 500 foot chosen and not the 1,000 feet?
Andy, let me step in real quick and just say, Mayor, we went with council's most recent decision. So back when we adopted chapter 8 of the recreational, council chose a 500-foot buffer. That's why we thought that was the will of this council.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Councilmember Somerville, I saw your hand first.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to call the question.
Okay. Is there a second to call the question?
I'll second.
Okay. All right, Mr. Halinga, would you call the roll on calling the question?
On the motion to call the question, Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Mayor Richardson,
Come back.
Councilmember Morgan, Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilcoxon,
Yes.
Mayor Richardson,
Yes. Would you call
Councilmember Morgan?
Councilmember Morgan again, please?
Councilmember Morgan.
There you go.
Okay, maybe he stepped away. Okay, thank you.
All right, with 5 yes votes, the motion carries. On the ordinance itself, Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Mayor Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan, Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan,
Can y'all not hear me? Can you not hear me?
with 5 yes votes, the motion carries. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Morgan, were you just speaking?
You hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
My
Vote
was
on
no.
on resolution 2020-246.
Vote was no.
No? Okay, with 5 yes and 1 no, the motion carries. Okay, council, moving on to the next item, ordinance 1371. Resolution to amend Chapter 7 marijuana and Chapter 8 adult use of the Ypsilanti City Code on first reading. It is resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that the certain ordinance entitled an ordinance to merge Chapter 7 and 8 of the city code into a single chapter, Chapter 7, be adopted on first reading.
So moved.
So move. Oh, support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any presentation on this ordinance change?
Just to give you guys a bit of a heads up, we pretty much did the same thing here as what we did with the zoning. They're just 2 completely separate ordinances. This is to streamline, make it easier, and also allow for medical businesses that we allow for recreational use to also be for medical use. So basically, if it's allowed in recreational, it would be allowed in medical, and all of the caps are the same. So you could have a social equity medical business as well as a social equity rec business. And so that was a clear distinction so that's kind of what I have. We went through a lot of it, I think, during the zoning discussion, but this is the permitting side from the city.
Any questions or discussion?
You hear me?
Seeing none, hearing.
Oh.
Councilmember Morgan, were you saying something?
I just want, well, yes. I just wanted to note for the record that I think the social equity program is doing exactly what I thought it would do. I was vehemently against it when we brought it out, and it seems to be doing exactly the agenda that it has. And so I'm glad that it's working, but I thought it would do exactly what it's doing.
Okay. Councilmember Somerville.
Yeah, I just want to thank staff for their work on this. But also, that's fine if you think that about the social equity element to our ordinance. Jeff Guyton, who spoke on the previous public hearing, though, is an Ypsilanti resident. He's Black and he was born and raised here and is going to have a chance to own a business.
Why you always got to say something back to me, though?
Well, you just spoke negatively about something that council adopted.
Just speak to the record. Just speak to the record.
There's no back and forth. Point of order. So anyways, my point being, Jeff Guyton, who is an Ypsilanti resident of Ward 1, was born and raised here, will have access to owning a business in Ypsilanti because of our social equity ordinance. So I don't really get the point in saying that it's not working. I think we wanted Ypsilanti residents who were Black to be able to participate, and it is doing that. So with that being said, there is another public hearing for this. And I think that we should move forward without any more back and forth from council.
Any more comments or questions from council before we open the public hearing? Okay. All right, seeing none, Clerk Kalinga, would you open the public hearing, please?
Council, currently there's no one with their hand raised in the attendees list. We can wait for a moment to see if anyone would like to make comment. Okay, Mr. Guyton has his hand raised. I'll allow him to speak now.
Thank you.
So can somebody explain to me what the point of this portion of the meeting is? Just like, because I want to speak to the, I don't want to waste your time. So I want to make sure that I know, is this still, are we still concerning zoning right now, or?
Mr. Guyton, we're still speaking
yeah.
to the, yes, to the zoning, to the second ordinance.
Mayor, this isn't referencing zoning. This is a merge of chapters 7 and 8 in city code.
Could you explain that to me then, just so that I know that because I guess I am just concerned. I guess I am just confused by Councilperson Morgan's comment about it not working, and in his pessimistic view on the social equity program when it directly benefits somebody that's probably lived in Ypsilanti longer than he's been alive, and if that's the kind of attitude he has towards something that's actually working, then I'm kind of disappointed in his stance. And if he wants to speak on that a little bit further, I'd appreciate it, I guess.
Okay, well, Mr. Guyton, right now we're not. It's your opportunity to speak, and
okay. Well, I guess I'll just leave it at Anthony's a Ward 3 council person. I guess I'm pretty disappointed in his pessimistic view and something that actually has worked for somebody that's lived in Ypsilanti his whole life, lived here his whole life. His parents have taught in Belleville and Willow Run, and if this isn't working, I don't know what is. So congratulations on a pessimistic view, and I look forward to hopefully being a strong partner for the city of Ypsilanti if and when we're able to get approved for licensure for adult use and medical marijuana. Thanks a lot.
thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other hands?
Currently, there are no other hands raised in the attendees list.
All right. Would you please close the public hearing?
It is resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that the public hearing for an ordinance entitled an ordinance to merge chapter 7 and 8 of city code into a single chapter, chapter 7, be officially closed.
So move.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Oppose? Okay, hearing none. Councilmember Somerville.
Yeah, I want to call the question.
Is there support?
I'll support.
It's been moved and supported to call the question on this ordinance.
Mayor Richardson?
No. I said it's been moved and supported. Okay.
Yeah, to call the question, so I have to
Oh,
call the
okay.
roll.
All right. Thank you. Yes.
Mayor Richardson?
No.
Councilmember Morgan?
No.
Councilmember Simmons?
No.
Councilmember Wilcoxon?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville?
Yes.
With 3 yes votes and 3 no votes, the motion fails.
Okay. Are there any other council members that would like to have anything to say? Any questions or any discussion? Okay, Councilmember Somerville.
Yep, I just want to say that I'm going to be supporting the merging of the 2 chapters. It's pretty self-explanatory for the same reasons why we just adopted the zoning ordinance. Also, again, just really grateful that there's a social equity element. The city of Ypsilanti is actually was the first city in Michigan to incorporate social equity into our local ordinance. And Joe Myers can speak to this. He was asked to present on behalf of the city to hopefully encourage other cities to adopt similar elements to their ordinances when they begin opting into recreational. So it's difficult for a lot of new business owners, especially those who are African-American and women, to open up new businesses. And there's a significant discount at the state level for them. The problem that they do often run into, though, is that communities either buffer them out of their ability to open a business, or there are limits to permits that don't allow them to own a business. So the fact that we set aside 3 of those in our ordinance before, and then again in the merger, is a pretty big deal. No other community has done that, and it's the only mechanism that can be put in place to ensure that those 3 permits actually go to people who qualify for those programs. So just want to give a shout out to everybody who helped work on that. I think it's pretty important. We should be proud of that. Other communities in Michigan are looking at what we did and trying to adopt similar elements. So I am hopeful that when those applications go live and we do start granting permits for those 3 social equity permits, that people who live in the city, for example, Jeff Guyton, are able to get those and operate and show that what we did was working. And, you know, glad to see it made it into the merger.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? Councilmember Wilcoxon.
Yeah, I just, going through this just seemed like a straightforward thing to do. We had 2 different chapters that were pretty long and lengthy, and they covered a lot of the same territory. And so making this consistent, I think is a good thing. And I'd like to thank staff for taking the time to go through this.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All right, seeing none. Mr. Halenga, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Morgan,
Driving. Come back to me, please.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilcoxon,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Mayor Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan,
Yes. Yes.
motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, council, moving on to the agenda. The next item is the consent agenda. Resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that the following items be approved. Resolution number 2020-251, approving the minutes of November 9th and 10th, 2020. Resolution number 2020-252, approving ordinance 1357, an ordinance to amend section 46-34 of the Ypsilanti City Code to provide that ethics complaints be filed with the city clerk, second reading. Resolution number 2020-253, approving ordinance 1369, an ordinance entitled 2019 Winter Traffic Control Orders, second reading.
Is there a
So moved.
motion?
Support.
It's been moved and second.
Councilmember Morgan, did you motion that?
I did. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Call the roll on the consent agenda. Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilcoxon,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Mayor Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
motion carries unanimously. All right,
Thank
council,
you.
moving on to the next section of the agenda, resolutions, motions, and discussions. We have resolution number 2020. Whereas it is necessary to acquire and construct certain improvements to the wastewater treatment plant consisting of upgrades to the aeration blower system and the replacement of the primary switch gear for the electrical supply to the plant, together with all necessary apparatuses and attachments thereto to serve the city and the charter township of Ypsilanti. And whereas a contract has been prepared among the city, the township, and the Ypsilanti Community Utilities Authority, whereby the authority will issue its bonds on behalf of the city and township to provide for the financing of costs of the project. And whereas this governing body has carefully reviewed the contract and finds that it provides the best means for accomplishing the project and providing the needed services. Now therefore be it resolved that the contract is hereby approved and the mayor and the city clerk of the city are hereby authorized and directed to execute and deliver the contract for and on behalf of the city, provided however, that contract shall not become effective until the expiration of 45 days after publication of the attached notice as a display advertisement of at least 1/4 page in the size in the Washtenaw Legal News, a newspaper of general circulation within the city, which manner of publication is deemed by the governing body to be the most effective manner of informing the taxpayers and electors of the cities of the details of the proposed contract and rights of the referendum thereunder. 2, the city clerk is directed to publish the attached notice in the newspaper above and designated as soon as possible after the adoption hereof. 3, all resolution and parts of resolutions in conflict with this resolution and the same hereby are repealed.
I'll move.
Your support?
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. And I see we do have presentation. Welcome, Mr. Castro and Mr. Harrington. And I think I saw one other that flipped off my screen, but welcome. And we're ready for your presentation.
Okay, if Mr. Colas could present his part first, Tom?
Sure, of course. Well, good evening. Again, my name is Tom Colas. I'm with Miller Canfield. We serve as bond counsel to the authority, actually also to the city, one of my colleagues. So what's before you today, as was read, was a resolution that approves a contract among the city, the township, and YCUA, where YCUA would finance improvements to the wastewater treatment plant. This is very similar to a financing that we entered into in 2019 for improvements to the wastewater treatment plant. And the resolution authorizes entering into that contract and publishing a notice in the paper, which is required by statute. The notice indicates that the city and the township and YCUA intend on entering into a contract for financing improvements, and it also provides for financing through the state. The state has a clean water revolving fund program that offers financial assistance to communities to fund various improvements. And the nice thing about the state program is a 20-year financing, and this year's rate is at 1.875%. So that's under 2% for a 20-year financing, which is pretty remarkable for rates. So again, the resolution would authorize entering into the contract and publishing the notice. If, when both communities, so the township actually voted earlier this evening to approve the contract and authorize their publication. If approved here and the notice gets published, there's a 45-day referendum period. Once that expires, YCUA board would then consider authorizing issuance of the bonds themselves. And then we would proceed through the state program and close sometime around the latter part of March of next year. Jeff, did you want to talk a little bit about the program in general then?
Yeah, absolutely. As Mr. Colas has stated, we're asking for your consideration for the SRF bond sale for 2 capital improvement projects at the wastewater treatment plant. Both projects are eligible for funding through the State Revolving Fund SRF loan program, which is administered by the Michigan Department of Environmental, Great Lakes and Energy, also known as EGLE. Their SRF program is a subsidized low interest loan with interest rates typically 1.5 to 2% below the open market interest rates. The total cost for the 2 improvement projects is estimated to be approximately just over 4.9 million. For these 2 projects, the current SRF interest rate is 1.875% and could save approximately $72,000 over the duration of the loan. Our YCUA engineering manager, Scott Westover, is also here to give us a little more detail on the projects. Scott?
Thank you, Jeff. We have, as Jeff mentioned, we have 2 significant improvements that we're looking to accomplish with this loan. One, as noted, is the replacement of the primary switchgear, original equipment to the plant dating back to its original construction around 1980. It is the interface between our supply from Detroit Edison and all the various equipment that we have in the treatment processes at the plant. It has been showing some deterioration over the last several years. And so we applied for the loan monies to replace it before it failed or deteriorated further. The second piece that we are looking to do is this, as part of this loan, is replacement of 2 of the 4 original aeration blowers. The aeration blowers supply the low pressure air to the part of the treatment process that removes the bacteria from the waste stream. Those blowers have been oversized from day one, and they are original equipment dating back to the original construction in 78 and 82. And changes in the process over the years have made them even more inefficient and oversized than they were to begin with. So we're looking to right size them and replace them with more efficient equipment, and should realize some tremendous energy savings going forward in that particular part of the plant.
Thank you, Scott.
So are you done, Mr. Castro?
Yes.
Okay. Council, you've heard them. Are there any questions?
I don't have any questions. Just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Council Member Wilcoxon.
I didn't have any questions, but I did. I was doing the math on this when I was reading this in the packet. It was giving the percent interest and what that would look like, and so I put those numbers over the course of this loan bond, and it looks like we're paying, starting out paying about $65,000 a year as repayment to that, and over the course of that, it goes up to incrementally to about $86,000 a year. So it's, this is $6 million. We're paying roughly a quarter of that compared to the township. And that breaks down to about $65,000 to $86,000 a year as the loan progresses. So I just want to put that in perspective. I had to do that for me to really understand what the cost of the city was going to be. But these facilities are they're clearly important, and these things have been operating for close to 40 years. And this is just kind of normal wear and tear. And if we can upgrade to be more efficient, I think that's a reasonable thing to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I could intervene. Mr. Harrigan, are you there?
You're muted, Mr. Harrington.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Good evening. I just wanted to add a little to his calculations. He's right on, with one exception. The nice thing about this being a plant improvement, part of these costs get shared to our contract communities, which make up about 57% of the capacity of the plant. So 57% of those costs get passed on to the contract communities, and the remaining 43% get split between the split you said with the township and city. So the $60,000 is actually closer to around $30,000. But I just wanted to add that in. And that's true with anything with the plant, at the plant. Just want to add that in, but your numbers are correct. Just wanted to add in that little extra.
Thank you very much.
Correct. So the city's cost will be about half of what was stated.
All right, thank you. I do have one question that I have been asked, and that is, will there be an increase to our residents?
That'll be a no. This won't affect the rates.
It will not affect the rates. Okay.
That is correct.
That was a question that I was being asked, so.
It's a very good question.
Yes. Okay, council, any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment and thank you to Yuka for being fiscally responsible and doing the necessary maintenance to keep the county moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Castro.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, Clerk Kalinga, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Mayor Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you for your support.
And thank you, gentlemen, for coming to share with us and to answer our questions and hear our concerns. Appreciate you.
Thank you
Yep.
very
Stay
much.
safe
In
and
person
stay
sometime.
well.
Thank you.
Yes. We're gonna get through this time, but just stay safe.
Absolutely. You do the same. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, council, moving on to the next item, resolution number 2020-255, resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that the city treasurer be authorized to levy and assess on the December 2020 tax roll the attached listing of unpaid bills totaling $121,122.96.
So move.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? Mr. Asabika, do you have anything you want to say to us?
Mayor, just that this special assessment will be added into our winter bills. So this will be due December 1st and payable until February 14 without penalties.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments from council? Is that a hand up, Mr. Wilcoxen?
Yes, it is. Thank you. I was looking through the thing and not paying attention. Moving around. I'm surprised at how many how much there is for weed ordinance, given our recent conversations about that. I'll leave that at that. There's another category in here that I didn't understand. So if somebody could address the AHB part of that and also the recreation park, am I to assume from this that there are people that had functions in the park and never paid for them? And they all seem to be on Warner Avenue, which runs right up to the park from the south side. So if somebody could address those and explain what HB is and what the cost for the recreation park are.
Yep. I'll start it, Andrew. With the recreation park, this is coming from WCPRC from the county. I think this is for the drains. And with regards to HB, I think Andrew will be the right person to talk to about this one.
Council, so the Administrative Hearings Bureau, that the enabling ordinance allows that all unpaid fines can be staff is to register liens with the county clerk's office. If those liens go unpaid, we can assess them to the tax roll. So that is what's been done.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. So I do have the question about the drain. So this is it.
Yeah,
I'm still not sure how it relates to the park.
This is a special assessment coming from the county. I can send you a brief explanation of how they do this. Yeah.
I had that same question. Yes, Councilmember Somerville.
Yeah, sorry, let me turn my, sorry for turning my camera off. Yeah, so actually with regard to this list, I'm actually curious, like how many of these are rental properties? So especially with like regard to the weed ordinance, do you think it'd be possible for us to get like maybe some sort of like report on that? Like how many of these weed ones are rentals? So like a failure on the landlord's part to take care of those properties? Or is that crazy?
We can do that. I would say, Councilwoman Somerville, the vast majority of these are vacant properties.
Okay, that'd
So
be
they're not so
helpful
much
to know that.
rental, and the vast majority of them are rental, but we can put together that list.
Cool, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. I still have some of the same questions that Councilmember Wilcoxon does about the recreation park. I don't understand. So were these fines from the county? Is that what you're saying?
I would have to talk to them, Mayor, about this one. But I think this is some properties where the drains would pass, and they would have to pay a certain amount of money since it runs to their property. But I would have to get more information from them about this.
Okay, thank you. City Manager, did I see your hand up? No, okay. I thought maybe for a moment I did. Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Okay, Mr. Halinga, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Mayor Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilcoxon.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you.
Council, moving on to the next item on our agenda. Resolution 2020-256, resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti, whereas the city has seen a significant reduction in parking meter revenue due to the effects of COVID-19 pandemic, and whereas there is a significant balance of unpaid parking tickets, and whereas the city recognizes that many people are also facing challenging financial circumstances, and now therefore be it resolved that the City Council hereby grants a late fine amnesty on all parking tickets issued on or before December 31st, 2018 to extend through January 31st, 2021.
I'll move.
It's been moved. Is there a
Support.
second? Moved in second. All right, is there any questions or comments, or Ms. Wessler, are you here to talk to us about this?
I am.
Okay, thank you.
So this year has been a very interesting one for parking. We've done a fair amount of cleanup of our older tickets. We've avoided a fair amount that were no longer valid, that had just aged out. And we still have a pretty extensive, I don't want to call it a backlog, but we have a large collection of tickets that have yet to be paid. In the interest of sort of helping our budget out this year, because we've had intermittent enforcement, including starting today, another period of no enforcement, or yesterday. This is a way to help keep revenue flowing into the city, and at the same time helping people out by waiving their late fees and encouraging them to pay. So that's really the heart of it. I do want to correct one minor thing in my memo. So the numbers in the first paragraph, the $145,000 and the $14,000, those refer to meter revenue, not ticket revenue. So ticket revenue is budgeted at about $200,000, and I cannot for the life of me get Encode to start up to see where we're at currently with that one. So, but other than that, the numbers for current outstanding tickets are correct.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Halinga, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilcoxon,
Yes.
Mayor Richardson,
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Council, the next item on the agenda is resolution number 2020-257. Resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti, whereas the city council adopts the following boards and commission procedure. Applications, council members will be informed automatically of online submissions. Paper applications will be forwarded to council when received. Council shall consult a submitted board and commission application spreadsheet to check residency status. Council should consult with staff liaison if applicable when appointing members to commissions which has specific requirements or skill sets, especially the Historic District Commission, Planning Commission, and Zoning Board of Appeals. Further qualifications shall be reviewed by members of council seeking to nominate the applicant. Applicant should be encouraged to attend the applicable board or commission meeting prior to nomination. The nomination, appointment, and notification process shall follow the procedure established at the council organizational meeting. The applicable board or commission chair will be informed of any nominations. Candidates should be encouraged to introduce themselves to council during the meeting with nomination. If council members have further questions for candidates after nomination, they should reach out to said candidate individually prior to appointment. Nominations of multiple candidates for a single seat. During the boards and commissions nomination section of the agenda, council will indicate by vote which candidate will receive the nomination for appointment. Each applicant will be provided the board and commission welcome packet upon taking the oath of office as approved in resolution number 2019-258. Vacancies and expirations. The staff liaison or clerk staff shall inform board and commission members of their upcoming term expiration at least 1 month prior to expiration to allow adequate time for reappointment or replacement. Liaisons will ask members of their intention to seek reappointment and inform the clerk office, who will then provide the update to council. Now therefore be resolved that this application and maintenance procedure for board and commission membership be approved.
So moved.
It's been moved. It's been moved in second. Do we have any presentation, any staff on that, or the straightforward resolution?
Council, this was in response to discussion during last meeting, requesting a procedure for this process based on the approval of proposals A and B in November 3rd's election. And this is just to codify that process and then kind of think about possibilities that might arise, such as multiple nominations for a single seat and the process how to manage through that.
All right. Any questions or comments?
Comment?
Okay, Councilmember Somerville.
Yep, just wanted to thank staff for getting this all together for us. I appreciate it. Can't speak for everyone. I think it's exciting to see this after it being on the ballot and voters approving it. So looking forward to it.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing that, I too thank staff for preparing this after, again, as Councilmember Somerville said, after the voters did approve it on the ballot. So would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Richardson?
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan?
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilcoxon?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you.
Council, the next item on the agenda is the liaison reports, the first being SEMCOG update.
Nothing, I don't have anything to report. SEMCOG, we haven't had a general meeting or a executive board meeting since the last report. However, I did attend a webinar, I guess it was last Thursday or Friday, and I did forward the name of that to some staff and suggested that it was really a well put together and really good webinar. If any of council would be interested in it, it was simply a webinar where representatives from, I think it was Monroe, oh gosh. And a couple of other, I've got the card right here, but I guess I did have the card right here. A couple of other cities that talked about what they had been doing, or what things they did during the during this time of the shutdown and rebounding back from that. I will, if you're interested, I can get that to you, but it was a very interesting webinar. I think one of the other cities was East Point, but that's it.
Council, the next liaison report is Watts.
So we have a meeting tomorrow. So next council meeting, I'll hopefully have an update.
The next item is Urban County.
Oh, no, we met and I reported last week on Urban County. We don't have a meeting till next month.
Ypsilanti Downtown Development Authority.
Yep. Hey, sorry, I'm getting my TV paused. We have a visioning session coming up this Thursday. So we don't have a regular board meeting, but we have a moderator coming in for a 4-hour session. We're going to talk broad, long-term strategic planning. Looking forward to that very much.
Okay, thank you.
Next item is Friends of Rutherford Pool.
They were meeting at the same time that we were meeting last week. So I caught up with Jessica Fowle, who is the chair of that the board. Construction is wrapping up. They're doing the little things like the painting. They poured the concrete outside. They've got some guardrails and things like that to put on. Most of the construction is done. There were a few cost overruns that will be picked up by the Friends of Rutherford Pool, and they will wind up owing. And part of that was unforeseen costs in demolition of the roof. And when that happened, there were increased costs for electrical work that was there. One of the things that's been going on is there was separated from this was having solar panels put on the roof. And there's been a delay in that, but it's actually worked out to our advantage in that the cost of panels has gone down and the efficiency has gone up. So Dave Strensky has been working with Charterhouse, which is the company that would be owning the array on the roof and getting the tax credits for it. And so they're moving forward with that, but it looks like a significant reduction. There's a couple different options on how that'll work. But the take home is it'll be less expensive than anticipated when we first started this. So that's what I have.
Thank you.
Council, the next item on the agenda is council proposed business.
Okay, let's start at the top with Councilmember Wilcoxon.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one issue that I want to bring up. So I'm the liaison to the Sustainability Commission. One of the commissioners, Beth Gibbons, has had a change of circumstance and is in the process of moving out of the city. So we're allowed to have 3 commissioners on the commission that are not residents. She started out, she's been on the commission for over a year. She was very helpful in the sustainability plan that's been part of the, sorry, I got distracted by the noise. She was instrumental in making revisions to the sustainability plan that is now part of going through being included in the master plan. She put a lot of time in on the grant to the DNR for Penn Dam. She and I and some other folks put in a fair amount of the time on the public engagement part of that. And so I'd like to nominate her as a non-resident to fill her current seat until the end of her term, which is in May of 2022. So I'd like to make that motion now.
Support.
Okay, are there any questions or comments?
I have a comment.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Steve, Councilmember Wilcoxon just mentioned. I've been able to work with Commissioner Gibbons on issues related to the Sustainability Commission since I was appointed to council in June of 2019. She's a huge asset to the city. Sad to see her move out of my ward. It was cool to be able to work for her, but glad that she's going to be nearby. So hopefully this will be something that council supports.
Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Morgan or Mayor Pro Tem?
I have a comment.
Okay, Councilmember Simmons.
Oh, I just want to echo what Councilmember Somerville said, that Ms. Gibbons has been a huge asset for us, and I sincerely appreciate her, everything she's done, and hope she can continue to, work with us. But sad to see her move from the city, but wish her the best.
All right, thank you. Okay, hearing none, other Councilmember Morgan or Mayor Pro Tem Brown, any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, Clerk Kaling, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor, this wouldn't be voted on tonight. This is just the nomination of Beth Gibbons. Her appointment will be on the December 1st agenda.
All right, thank you.
That's all I have tonight.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, coming down to Councilmember Somerville.
I don't have any council proposed business tonight.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Simmons.
I want to say thanks again to our staff for moving around those speed signs. I keep seeing them around the different streets in the neighborhood, and it's a big deal for a lot of folks speeding and things. So I just want to say thanks, and I appreciate that. I think that's all I've got.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Morgan.
Thank you, Mayor. I only have a couple things. One, I do want to apologize for my outburst. It was uncalled for. Me being fatigued is no excuse. I do want to say, for the record, I do think as a council person, it's best to speak to the issue, and I think I get rebutted to more often than most. So I just want to take. I'm not here against anybody. We're all on the same team. Please forgive my outburst. Secondly, I've been getting emails, and I can't lie. I think I'm kind of torn. Some of the emails have been about people not wanting mandates and masks mandatory, and they don't think it's enough scientific or medical evidence enough to make people wear masks. And then you have other people who are emailing saying the exact opposite, saying how dire it is. And so as a city who looks to protect the citizens and keep everybody healthy and following the executive orders, and so I'm torn. I just would make a statement in saying that and I think people want to believe that we know best for ourselves, and we take the proper precautions. However, I'm still torn because I do believe in staying healthy. My job is essential, so I get people being on the front line need to take those precautions, and so I would just echo the executive orders. And so I just thank the constituents for reaching out. And like I say again, please forgive my outburst. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. If I may make a comment there, well, I'll save it for Mayor's remarks. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
I don't have any business tonight.
All right, thank you. Okay, is that everyone? That seemed to have gone really quick. Okay, is it mayor's remarks next?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, Councilmember Morgan, I just like to say, and that this might help you in responding to others. And I think I might have shared this with council before, but when I traveled to the National League of Cities in March, I left here on March the 5th, and that was when it was just beginning to be talked about, and there were no shutdowns, no mandates of any kind. But just from things that my cardiologist had shared with me, the day before I traveled, I went looking for masks. I was actually looking for the medical mask and could not find any. At that time, the only mask I could find was a carpenter mask. But I bought carpenter masks and I wore them while I was on the plane. I wore them on the streets and in DC. And coming back, I also wore the mask, and I saw others wearing the mask then. I bought the mask and I wore them to protect myself. And that's what I'm beginning to hear now as the mandates are coming more across the whole country and everything. The mask actually protects us as much as it protects others from us if we're possibly infected. So you might want to share that with those that say they don't see a need to wear a mask. It's really for them, protecting themselves. So that's what I've begun to just tell people without telling the whole story. But the mask is for your own self-protection. I do appreciate the governor and how she has stayed on top of this, how she has made us has focused on keeping us safe. And with the numbers rising as they are, I think that I think I heard one state had 6,700 new cases on yesterday. So I think it's just up to each of us to think about ourselves and wear a mask. And it also protects others while we're wearing it. So, but anyway, it is an individual thing, but I do encourage all of us to stay safe. And if wearing a mask is going to keep us safe, then by all means, wear a mask. Council Member Simmons and Council Member Wilcoxon, you will be hearing from me. I'll send you a text. I had very much wanted to call you today, but every time I got ready to pick up the phone to call you or to text you, something happened and I was pulled away from that. So, but that's pretty much all that I have for tonight.
Mr. Mayor, can I say one more thing? I just wanted to speak directly to something. I just want to say, if you're on the line, Mr. Guyton, I am extremely ecstatic that you got the benefit of the social equity program. And if you'd like to meet and talk further, my number is public record. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. I believe the remarks from city manager are next.
That's correct, Mayor.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just want to remind Council of the rescheduled Water Street public input session. It will no longer be an in-person session due to the recent shutdown, the phase 2 shutdown of our local city hall and services. It will be another Zoom presentation tomorrow, starting at 5 o'clock. If anybody still needs, well, it needs the link, I should say, let us know if you can't find it so that we can send it to you, and make sure that your constituents see it. It is on our website and it's also on our Facebook page. So I wanted to announce that, and also just let everyone know that for the next 3 weeks, City Hall will be closed for in-person business, and we are encouraging everyone to do their business via the website, phone, email, Dropbox. So if you can spread the word, and most of all, encourage people to put a pause on it, to not engage in activities outside of the home unless extremely necessary. Limit it to one family, which is your family unit. Continue to wear your mask, social distancing, and to just really adhere to the CDC guidelines. It's really important at this juncture. So I just want to remind you of that. And I believe that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Was there any communications? Mr. Halenga.
Yeah, there are 2 more communications under there. The Ward 1 vacancy interviews are on November 24th, 2020 at 6 p.m. Council's questions are due by 5 p.m. this Friday. And then the housing affordability work session is scheduled for December 8th, 2020 at 7 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Oh, sorry. I just have a quick question. When's the deadline?
You say
When
what's
is the, I'm sorry, when is the application deadline for the Ward 1 vacancy?
It is this Thursday by 5. Yeah. So we will be, the clerk department from noon until 5 will be unlocked for people to submit applications as necessary for tomorrow and Thursday.
Gotcha. Have we gotten many applications?
1 application has been submitted.
Cool. Thank you.
And it's for November the 18th is the deadline for applications, you said.
It is the 19th. It's
19th, Thursday. Okay, that right. Thank you. Okay. Anything else? Other communications? Okay, seeing none from Mr. Halenga. I just want to say to everyone, I believe adjournment is next. To everyone, stay safe, stay well, and do what you have to do to protect yourself and to protect those around you. So nothing else.
Move to adjourn.
Or stay safe, everyone. I've got extra masks if anybody needs some.
Have a good night,
Thank you
everyone.
for that.
Good night, Reagan.
Good night, everyone.
Good night,
Good night, everyone.
Councilman Simmons.
Stay well, stay safe.
Good night, Mayor Pro Tem. Good night, Councilwoman.
Good night.
Somerville. Good night.
Good night, Council Member Morgan.
Good night, everyone.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night, everyone.
Take care. Stay
Stay
safe.
safe. See everyone on Thursday for 5 o'clock, if you can.
It's tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
It's Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's the 18th. I don't
Right.
know why I keep thinking Thursday is the 18th. Thank you for correcting me there, but that's been stuck in my head for not just today.
All right.
All
Have a
right.
good
Have a
night.
good one. All right.
Have a good night, everyone.